Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 135 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on October 18th, 2022. Hope you're all doing well as the weather changes to this wonderful hunting weather. Good old murder weather. It certainly is in Texas, which is nice. It's not cold, but it's definitely not crazy hot anymore. So I don't know if you know this, but that's how we know that summer's over in Texas. It's when it's lava hot, and then the next day it's not lava hot, and we're like, oh, summer must be gone. That's essentially it's usually a cold front. There's no gradual weather change here. It's like, oh, we have 4 seasons. Yeah, it must be nice. We don't. We have 2. Hot and not as hot. But yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying it. I've noticed a lot of people going out hunting, and they're sharing different videos and photos of all their kills and stuff, and all the different animals. And oh man, it's such a great time of year. And man, I have to admit, I'm a bit exhausted right now. I had a pretty intense powerlifting workout this evening. It's one of those where your body's sort of shaken as you drive home. Man, I need a big meal right now, but I knew if I ate one, I wouldn't be able to do the podcast. So I just had a little something, we'll see how it goes. So if I pass out, you're like, where'd he go? And he left it recording. No, I have some neat plans for some more wildlife management stuff I've been doing. I got these new blind stands. I'm gonna mess with them. They're kind of cool. I'm excited to try out some of the helmet-mounted thermal stuff for long-term observation. So far, I've used the helmet-mounted stuff with wildlife for a short while. The helmet-mounted stuff, but I haven't done it long-term like I've done with handheld thermal. So we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of excited. And you might be saying, you're like, what is this guy talking about? I thought this was about silencers. You're like, thermal? Yeah. Yes, friends. Thermal, what I mean is long wave infrared, sighting systems, and it does exist. You can buy things like that, even helmet mountable systems. And if you're interested in such things, one place you could ask about the different technologies available is High-End Armament. That's right, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by High-End Armament Technology, a dealer of exactly that, high-end arms and accessories. They have significant longevity in the machine gun and the NFA game, as well as significant expertise in both the procurement and operation of night vision, thermal optics, and infrared sighting systems. That's right, Robert and his crew have decades of experience and actual knowledge of the gear. If there's a weapon system that's rare and you're having trouble locating, or you need to get into the night vision or thermal game, or maybe you just want an M11-9 submachine gun, and you're like, I need a trustworthy dealer. You live out of state, you can't find someone. I don't know. They're a great place to call. Check them out at highendarms.com, on Instagram at highendarms, and they even have a Facebook page, which is also High-End Arms. Yeah, I hope they can help you folks out. If you need it, tell them Jay sent you. And the J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Silencer Shop. You can use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically, and in turn, you cut down on errors, you simplify your silencer purchasing process, you get a money-back guarantee, no transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. And if you guys want to save some money, which who doesn't, there's some links in the show notes of each episode, and also at pewscience.com/podcast. The first is for True Shot Gun Club out of Arizona. If you click that link and you shop there, it helps the podcast. So I would appreciate that. If you join their A-Zone membership to get free shipping on all the ammo you buy from them for a whole year, if you use code word PewScience, you'll get $20 off. So that'll save you some cash. You'll get free shipping the whole year, and you get $20 off the membership. That's awesome. Also, if you like Magpul, I mean, who doesn't? They're pretty based. Use code word PSTEN. That's PS10 to get $10 off your order of $100 or more at magpul.com. There's a link there in the show notes to help you. And finally, and most importantly, this podcast is sponsored by PewScience. pushing the silencer industry forward one test at a time. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It is the simplest and the most accurate hearing safe rating for your suppressed small arms. It's based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. And Pew Science is the home of the silencer sound standard. There's 7 sections. It's the most in-depth and accurate silencer data and analysis in the world. Check it out at pewscience.com. And you can support this podcast. You can support Pew Science. You can support all the testing I do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. You can donate on the review page and the podcast page. Every little bit helps. And if you're tightening your belt because of the current recession and inflation, I understand. Something that you can do is free. Give the podcast a good rating on your favorite podcast provider, iTunes, Spotify, stuff like that. Give it the old 5 stars. Spread the word. Tell the algorithm that silencers and guns are awesome. It'll help everybody. That's right. I got 3 topics for you today. Kind of excited about this one. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 692, the Dead Air Sandman-S on the 5.56 Mark 18. Technical discussion. We'll go deep with the Sandman-S. Topic 2, Member Research Supplement 693. Oh my goodness. The Dead Air Sandman-S with different end caps? That's correct. Yeah, I put the 30 caliber end cap on there, put the 5.56 end cap on there. We tested both of them. Does it make a difference? Well, Pew Science members, no. And then finally, topic 3. Some folks have reached out regarding interest in characterization of foreign silencers. It's common, actually, for that to happen. But, the what do they call it? The Russian-Ukrainian war going on. I'm sure you all know about that. It's something that's happening right now. It's actually driven some traffic to Pew Science. Interesting times. So, thanks to the members who've been sharing their experience with Pew Science and the world, because man, I tell you what, it's definitely worldwide, which is both exciting and scary. All right, let's move into topic 1 at a time of 7 minutes and 24 seconds. Okay, a drink of water here. Man, my workout was really good tonight. I've been really busy. For those of you trying to get a hold of me, I apologize for some of the delays. We had an unfortunate. We had a family emergency, and then we also had a lot of family visiting, and so I've been kind of out of pocket on email and stuff, and so my bad. It happens from time to time, but I do perform triage, and sometimes things get buried. But we're back, and in this topic, I would like to speak about the Sandman-S because it is very popular. Okay, so we're going to talk about the most recent review, Sound Signature Review 692. This is the Mark 18 with the Sandman-S. As the Sandman-S comes, as you would buy one, as you would receive it, and put it on your rifle. Okay, I want you guys to understand that. I don't modify these silencers. This is how, what you would get if you bought one. And boy howdy. A lot of you folks have bought one, that is a Sandman-S. And a lot of you folks waited for this review. And I know that because of the feedback I receive from all types of media. And I do have to sincerely apologize for the delay in the release of this data and analysis. There were actually some major administrative hurdles early on with this silencer, but I did deal with all of that, and I am glad to finally bring the data analysis to you after a long wait. We don't have to go into the details, but there were some reasons why it was delayed, and it was not really in my control. This is not the first time you have seen this silencer from Pew Science, actually. It's not. Those of you new to the effort, folks that have followed this effort for some time will remember Sound Signature Review 611, 6.11. That's right. That was, what is that? So we're on 692. It's 81 reviews ago. Yeah, that's right. 81 reviews ago, in a faraway land, back in the day, as they say. You saw that. You saw the Sandman-S in 308 bolt action in 611. Since it's been so long since we talked about the Sandman-S, let's go ahead and let's talk about the silencer. The physical characteristics, the way it looks, the way it works, the way it feels in the hand. The hand feel. We always like to talk about that, Pew Science. Stuff like that, though, we do. So, for a 30 caliber silencer, the Sandman-S really isn't that big. For a 30 caliber silencer, it really isn't. It's not a K-can. It's not a Kurz can. Kurz is German for short. And that's why people use the word Kurz. It's all just, it's German all the way up or all the way down, wherever you want to look at it. It's just, what is there anything the Germans can't do? They're just so efficient in things they do. German efficiency is something I've always admired throughout history, frankly. Just very, very efficient people. Anyway, it's not really a long silencer. It's sort of a medium silencer, a medium can. I actually kind of think of it as the Sandman-M, the Sandman mic. I always think about the Sandman-M. I feel like if it was the size of the rugged Razor, it would be an S. I think it's more of an M, a medium. And because of its size and its construction, it's sort of heavy. Steel tube. Right? And it's got the cast stellite baffles, of which there are 5. There's 5 baffles in the Sandman-S. And you have your steel end cap that's removable and interchangeable. Oh, excuse me. It's interchangeable. The end cap's interchangeable. And then what do you have on the proximal end? You have the key mount interface, right? They call that the chemo for short. And what is that? Well, that's the welded mount interface on the proximal end of the silencer tube. That's right. So you must use dead air key mounts or the chemo mounts. I was thinking about this. Saying chemo mount is like saying ATM machine. Automatic teller machine. Dead air key mount mounts. Because key mount mounts. It's like, you should just say dead air key mounts, right? Anyway, it's kind of silly. Anyway, the use of those mounts, and this is where I'm going with this. Bear with me. Yeah. Do I have some pre-workout in my system? Possibly. Is it a stimulant? Absolutely. Is that a problem? Only if you're scared. No. This is going to be interesting. The use of those mounts also adds some weight because you must learn. Look. Here's the thing with the Sandman. The Sandman, there's many of them. They're sand. They live in sand. They add weight because you have to use them with the silencer, and they can be heavy, these mounts. So why am I telling you this? This is a Mark 18 test, right? That's a 5.56 weapon. This is a 30 caliber machine gun silencer, my friends. So if you look at this in context, you're going to immediately see this silencer is bigger and heavier than most full-size dedicated 5.56 silencers, okay? Even though it's an S silencer. You see, you see what I'm going? So if you're new to the AR-15 and you're putting or you're new to putting a silencer on the AR-15, like many people are, you need to have some context. And when your dealer tells you, because he very well might tell you, get a Sandman-S for your AR. It's the best I know. It's just so good. I mean, they say it a lot. I know this. I mean, hey, you know what? It might be a good choice for you, or it might not be a good choice for you, but you just need to know what you're signing up for. You need some context. Okay, so if you're new to the AR-15, you're new to suppressing it, you're going to be sold a Sandman-S, and that's cool. Whatever. Not my rodeo. Like, after you get done listening to this podcast, after you get done reading these reviews and my data that I publish for you, that's it. I turn you loose into the world like a bird that must fly from the nest and fend for himself or herself. But it's my job to help you learn to fly. If you fall and die from the tree, It is unfortunate, but it is also the circle of life. So let's talk about the inside of the silencer. It's kind of like a rugged silencer inside, but the baffles have bigger holes, axial holes, and they're shaped, and the baffles are shaped a little differently. The baffles are cast from a material with the trade name of stellite, and it's a trade name. It's actually a brand. It's a real. It's a steel alloy. It has a lot of cobalt in it, as it were. What stellite? Let me tell you, stellite. It's used in a few different industries. I'm actually pretty familiar with it. Anytime you have a really high temperature flow that's abrasive, stellite can provide a good solution to withstand that abrasion at very high temperature, and it can do that for a relatively long period of time. Relative to some other steel alloys. I mean, I've seen stellite systems, but probably like the size of like the hood of your car, doing things in reactors for quite some time. And I've also investigated them being destroyed. So when you understand a stellite and why it's used, you might be tempted to say, well, gosh, Jay, that sounds really great for a silencer, especially for a short barrel rifle silencer. It seems to have all the ingredients. It's like you're making a cake and you dip your finger in the batter, like, that's good baffle. That'd be weird. Look, you'd be right. You'd be like, man, that sounds really great. But there's a catch. Catch is, it's really hard to machine stellite. It makes your tools really dull. It's hard. Remember how resistant it is to abrasion? It's really tough. It's got this toughness, as we call it. So cutting it kind of sucks. And what's a better way to make a part out of stellite than machining it down from a solid block? Well, you could cast it. Y'all know what casting is. You make a mold of the shape you want and use that to make the part. Now, what do you got to worry about when you do that, though, when you cast something? Well, there's several things, actually. One thing is that, man, you got to make sure that mold is what you really want to use, because making more of those molds sucks. And then what happens if the casting process isn't really, 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 really good? Could there be imperfections in the casting for a variety of different reasons? We don't need to get into all the reasons, but you can imagine why, when casting something, there could be problems. There could be, in general. So you think about this, the casting, what could go wrong, and then you also got to think about the material's really, really tough, and what comes with that. Typically on our stress strain curve for the material, our yield plateau is a little short, isn't it? Our yield plateau, isn't it? What does that mean? What do I mean when I say our yield plateau is a little short? Well, in plain English, stellite is rather brittle. Okay? It's strong. It's tough. And it's resistant to abrasion under heat, but it's brittle. It's a brittle material, relatively, for a steel. It exhibits, this is what we would call, it exhibits a low ductility. Understand? In its plastic state, its resiliency is low. Its plastic limit is not very high. So once it starts to get really pushed, it doesn't quite bend a lot. It doesn't bend much. It'll chip, right? It'll crack. Sometimes it'll shatter. Sometimes. And now for it to shatter, there's some things that have to go wrong. Usually, and this is not. I'm just speaking in general. Usually, when you have a shattered stellite system of whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a silencer. There are some geometric issues, some material issues, things like that. Usually, if you have a silencer with stellite baffles, and you see an issue, it's because a bullet hit a baffle, or there was a casting imperfection, and that little imperfection formed a stress concentration, and you got a failure initiation. Here, I'll give you an example. This is a real example. I have a rugged Razor 762. I've actually had it for a very long time. You know what? You've seen it tested by Pew Science because it's my silencer that I tested, and I published that data for all of you. on a couple hosts so far, right? You've seen that. And I have really pushed that silencer hard. And you know what I have? There's a tiny little V-shaped piece of material in the blast baffle that's gone out of my razor. There is. It's really tiny. It's nothing that influenced the performance. But what appears to have happened is it had a small imperfection and a little bit of the baffle cracked away. It can happen. Certainly can. It's not common. But it doesn't really influence the function when it's that tiny, and I don't have a measurement for you, but just take my word for it. And by the way, Rugged would certainly take care of it. Rugged's warranty and customer service is exceptional, if not one of the best in the industry. Their quality and their customer service and turnaround time is, I want to use the term second to none, but I'm not sure. That there might be someone that is just as good, but I'm trying to think of someone better, and I can't. Right? It escapes me. But so that's the only time that I've seen a Rugged baffle issue in one of the rifle silencers in person, like for my own eyes, because I'm sure it's happened before. I think I've seen some eroded mouths, baffle mouths on the blast baffle, maybe. And it is typical of Stellite after a lot of abuse. Okay, but typically, now this is important, typically for the same geometry, Stellite will outlast other alloys with erosion resistance. This is in general, okay? But it will eventually erode. It will. It takes a lot, though. It does take a lot. The shorter the barrel, the more severe the firing schedule, the better chance that you erode. I'm not talking about 300 blackout subsonic. That's basically a pistol round, guys. Relax. I'm talking supersonic 5.56 on a short barrel. It's crazy. You guys, some of you don't even understand what you're asking the silencer to do when you put it on the Mark 18 and shorter. What, you use a barrel shorter than the Mark 18 with 5.56? I mean, you can. I mean, everyone likes flamethrowers sometimes, I guess. What you don't understand is it's more than a flamethrower. It's much more violent than that. One second. It's much more violent than a flamethrower. If you only knew. I mean, look at the combustion waveforms. With the dead air stuff, and I'm believe me, I know I'm going on the roundabout way to this, but I'm getting to something important. With the dead air stuff, I've seen things come apart. I think everyone has. I'm not going to tiptoe around this. I mean, I think it's important we talk about it. I'm not sure why. I don't want to say definitively why we're seeing things come apart. Typically on Stellite, you should just see erosion. If things are coming apart, there's an impact event or a manufacturing defect, guys. I mean, it's not typical. So, and I alluded to that before with this casting stuff. It's just, sometimes it's both. You really don't know. It's really situation dependent. You really got to, you have to do a metallurgical examination, frankly. And this is and I'm not a metallurgist, but I work with them, and I have for a very long time. But material failures are in my wheelhouse, and so I feel like I can speak about this in an educated way. I mean, I'm not blowing your skirt up here. Like I'm speaking from experience that crazy stuff can happen with the material. So I do want to just address that elephant in the room and say I've seen failures, and the preceding information that I just gave you should give you a good idea and a good window into what could cause some of those failures. It doesn't take much for a stress concentration to form from an imperfection, and the environment to which the silencer internals are subjected, especially on a short barrel 5.56 weapon, is severe. Okay? And so, when you like you say, you have a Mark 18, you want to put a titanium silencer of traditional design and then do mag dumps. It's like, guys, You know, if you see stellite eroding, what do you think is going to happen to something like titanium? You're going to erode the particles so fast you're going to start to burn them. And it can burn so easily that you're not even, some of the dust and particles the surface area is just so great that the rate of combustion becomes so high that if you got enough of it, you could actually have an energetic event. And it's the environment that Mark 18 subjects a silencer to is really bad. And so I'm not making excuses for silencer failures, because I think if you put a silencer on a Mark 18 and it's advertised to work on a Mark 18, it should work. But I am telling you that it is not a trivial environment in which a silencer should survive unless it is purposely designed. And so I say all this to say, silencers like the Sandman should be durable. You should, in theory, be able to run them on machine guns and not even think for a second that the silencer will be hurt. All right? And that's why you buy a silencer like the Sandman or a rugged Surge or a rugged Razor or something. That's one of the reasons I bought some of the rugged rifle silencers back in the day, and they have served that purpose for me. I've put them on my personal machine guns and done very irresponsible things with them, and they're fine. It's actually really cool. I have a lot of confidence in the rugged silencers because I have wailed on those things. Or like the CGS Helios QD, a 3D printed Inconel silencer. It's not stellite, but that thing is it's a tank. That's another thing I've wailed on like a hooligan. It doesn't, that thing hasn't blinked though. It's different animal, 3D printed, different animal. DMLS, it's more advanced. So back when we talked about the Sandman-S, this 30 caliber machine gun silencer on a bolt action, I talked about how the design was relatively primitive. And that has not changed. It's not like, now we're 80-something reviews later and all of a sudden the design is different. No, it's the same silencer. It hasn't changed. This is simple cones, and the design is such that there's a bigger hole to increase the flow rate. It's simple stuff. On 308, that flow rate was pretty high. Okay? And you may ask yourself, well, does the same thing happen on 5.56? I'd say yes and no, actually. And so let's actually, you know what? This is a good a place as any. Let's start looking at the data. Okay, so go ahead, and I'm going to open this right now. Go ahead and open up review 692 on pewscience.com. You can follow along at home if you want. You don't have to. But if you're new to this podcast, whenever I do this, I do pull up the review and I speak about it technically. And if you're on your phone or your computer somewhere, you have a beer or maybe a nice Topo Chico with a lime, maybe some candy corn, to munch on because it is the season. You follow along. Join me, won't you, as we go through the data. Bottom line up front, on the Mark 18, 24.9 composite suppression rating for the Sandman-S, 22.0 at the muzzle, 20.8 at the shooter's ear. All right, guys, so this is a 30 caliber rifle silencer. It's got cone baffles, big hole in the middle, nothing exotic. What did you think was going to happen here? What is it? Is it time to be real? Let's be real. Is this a surprise to any of you? You know what's funny? I don't know if this is funny, but you know what's interesting? I have not spoken with one Pew Science member that was surprised by these test results at all. I've got a lot of members now, and so it really disturbs me. That actually does disturb me. It comforts me, but it disturbs me at the same time. See, on the one hand, it's wonderful that the education is spread enough such that people understand what to expect on a silencer like this, or rather from a silencer like this on the Mark 18. That warms my heart. That's wonderful. It's comforting. But on the other hand, what is disturbing to me is that is that people have gotten really bent out of shape when other silencers scored better than this. Okay? People have thrown shade at some silencers on the Mark 18 that perform better than the Sandman-S. So where are those people now? Okay? Well, why was everyone screaming to buy a Sandman-S for years for a 556 SBR? Okay? Well, hold that thought. Look, we have a pretty good contextual playing field right now, and I think the oxygen left the room for some people on this review. You know, the educated people understood. The people who have used the silencer and other silencers understood. But a lot of first-time silencer users and buyers were shocked. You know, one of the goals of Pew Science is to reduce the risk of shock. Okay, I don't want you to be shocked. I want you to know what's coming. The more educated you become, the better I've done my job. Okay? That's my... I saw there was an ARFCOM discussion recently. It's like, I think clearly his intent is not to serve consumers because... I'm like, dude, are you serious right now? Like, I read that and I was like, clearly my intent is not to help consumers? Really? Because I'm not showing the silencer you want to see? You think this is not to help consumers? Bro. What do they say? Touch grass? Touch grass, dude. What are you talking about? If you've been around silencers at all, you know this effort is almost lopsidedly consumer centric. The guy was like, he's like, of course it's only for the industry. Really? Really? If this is only for the industry, don't you think the industry would like me? They don't. Spoiler alert. Okay. 1 second. No, some do. Forget it. Let's scroll down. We're gonna scroll down in this review here. I'm gonna scroll all the way down. Forget about the peak DB numbers because frankly they don't matter unless you want to play games with yourself in a dark room or a barn or something like that. Be weird. Yeah, if you want to be weird, look at them. Keep scrolling down. Okay, figure one. Yeah, figure one. Fingerprint. Yeah, this is important. Figure 1A, figure 1B. For those of you new to Pew Science and you haven't examined this review, figure 1A will show you the entire time scale. How do you know that it's showing you the entire time scale? Well, there's no sound, there's no external pressure. Then you see a combustion event with exponential blowdown. And then later in time, you see the bolt closing, and then you see more silence. What does that indicate to you, that entire time scale there? It indicates to you that we're measuring the entire combustion regime. That's right. I didn't cherry pick part of the data to show you. I didn't imagine there was some kind of crazy logic that was like, well, if we only look at this part, then we don't have to look at that part, and we can make the number say whatever we want. It's like, no, bro. Why don't we look at the whole gunshot? Because that's what people hear when they shoot. That's right. So that's what you see in Figure 1A. Figure 1B, it's like enhance. Yeah, it's zoomed in. And the reason I zoom in is because I want to show you something. It's important. Okay, what's the first thing you notice when you look at Figure 1B? There's shot 1 and shot 2. Shot 1 is in black. Shot 2 is in blue. I do have things labeled. I'm sorry if you're colorblind, or you should be able to see it. Anyway, what's the first thing that you notice in the data here in Figure 1B? What's the first thing you notice? Well, I'll tell you the first thing I noticed. And it actually surprised me a little bit at first. The first thing I noticed was how much the first jet from the muzzle blast and the bullet shock was decoupled from the primary flow. See, you can't delete the coupled first jet and muzzle and the coupled first jet from muzzle blast and the bullet shock. You can't delete that from the waveform because it will completely change the signature. And we wouldn't even learn what's going on. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, dude. I'm like, please don't take it. Please don't remove that. It's like, okay, sorry. I'm a little, okay. Pre-workout, I'm not going to blame pre-workout, but I am I've just been seeing some stuff, and I wouldn't even be able to tell you about this unless we measured it all. And it's important because when you look at this, and I'll give you a timestamp. Look at around the internal combustion at that. What I mean by that is the flow in the silencer that is being transmitted at the sound speed of steel through steel, which is super fast, through the steel walls, then to the mic, to the pressure sensors. If you look at 29.75 millisecond timestamp in Figure 1B, you'll see that to start. And then right after that, you see that first perturbation. You see that first muzzle jet with a bullet shock. That's what I'm talking about. And so that happens. And then immediately after, and let's call it 30 milliseconds or so. And I think I mentioned this in research in note 2 of the article. At 30 milliseconds, you were suppressed heavily. Like it's died. And then you start to build. You start to build pressure. You wouldn't think that would happen necessarily with a big bore on a 5.56 gun, but yet it does. It's interesting, right? And why is that? Well, the spacing the Sandman-S baffles are most likely responsible for that, and the fact it has 5 of them. And you're like, oh my God, Jay, how can you draw that conclusion? Well, let's talk about it. This is not a rugged Razor 7.62, right? And having an extra baffle on a 30 caliber rifle silencer for use on 5.56, it can make a big difference in the way gas flow occurs. I promise you that. And the really wild part is this works in both directions. I'm about to blow your mind. Take the Sandman-S, the Razor 7.62, and the Razor 5.56. 3 silencers. Super similar in some ways, right? The Dead Air Sandman-S, the rugged Razor 7.62, and the rugged Razor 5.56. Take those 3 silencers. You have Mark 18 data for all 3, which is pretty dope. Okay? So sure, the Sandman-S has a different baffle shape, right? Kind of. Than the 2 Razor silencers, but bear with me. I know, but just bear with me. When you use a 5.56 bore, and what I mean by bore, I'm talking about the barrel. When you use a 5.56 barrel bore, particularly a short barrel 5.56 bore, and you dump the jet into a 30 caliber silencer, the behavior is not the same as dumping a 7.62 jet into the silencer. You're like, duh, Jay. You're like, I know, but it's me saying it and you understanding it are 2 different things. Add a baffle to the Razor 7.62. Make a Sandman-S. You get a little more trapped gas on 5.56. Okay. Take a baffle away from the Razor 7.62. Make a Razor 5.56. Trap a little more gas too. It all depends on the baffle spacing and expansion volume and time. Don't forget time. People talk about this geometry and spacing, and they try to translate different baffle spacings to different designs, thinking that it's just the geometry. Guys, no, this is a dynamic event. This is why Pew Science shows you time on the horizontal axis of every freaking graph on the website. If I didn't need to show you time, I wouldn't spend painstakingly long periods of time doing it. If I could just show you one peak pressure or peak impulse and one peak dB or one peak dB millisecond, if I could just show you one, don't you think I would? Like if I'm talking about these 3 silencers and the different baffle spacing and their performance, and I could just show you one number, one peak dB number from the waveform, don't you think I would? Dude, it would be so much easier. I would save so much time. Like, Pew Science would literally, I would have everything. Like, it would be, it would be stupid, first of all. That's why I don't do it. But you understand. So all you silencer designers, like Form 1 guys, whoever you are, the Form 4 guys, I don't know, Dead Air, whoever's listening to this, baffle spacing is important. But as you know, and as the big silencer manufacturers have figured out empirically, like, I don't know, I'm looking at you, YHM. from the first episode of this podcast. Like they said this in different words. It's time. Combustion time. When do you expand? When does the jet expand? How much can you expand? How much can you stagnate flow? 5.56 suppression, especially in a short barrel, it can get really weird in a hurry, dude. So when you take the Sandman-S, excuse me. 1 second, I gotta pause this. Sorry about that, guys. I got a frog in my throat. What was I saying? Oh, right. 5.56 suppression, especially in a short barrel, it can get really interesting, really weird in a hurry. So when you take the Sandman-S and the Razor 762 and you put them on the Mark 18, what actually is happening is the flow rates actually kind of flip around. And and I'm talking about when they flip from their 762 flow. The Sandman-S traps a little more gas than the Razor 762 on 5.56 on the Mark 18, which was the opposite on 308. Isn't that interesting? And you know what? Both of those silencers give some erratic signatures later in the shot string, that is. And why is that? And you've seen this many times. Excess propellant starts to burn. That super short barrel is not doing you any favors, dude. And look in fact, please, let's look back. Let me not get too far off track. Go back to the review and scroll down to figure 2. It's right under figure 1. Okay. What do you see? You got figure 2A and figure 2B. Figure 2B is just enhanced with less shots so you can see more features. It's the same. What do you see? Well, look at it. Look at it. What do you see in the impulse waveforms? You see impulse running away post-peak. It runs away. That's classic overbore behavior. 30 caliber silencer on the Mark 18 behavior. It's classic. That's textbook Pew Science, baby. It's textbook. Same thing you saw on the Razor 762. The Sandman-S and the Razor 762 are doing extremely similar things. But you didn't see it on the Razor 5.56, did you? You didn't see it on the Razor 5.56. Oh, but you did see it on the Energetic Armament ARX or ARX or whatever they call it. And what else did you see it on? Well, you saw it on the Q Trash Panda. But you didn't see it on the Helios QD. And from CGS. And you also didn't see it on the Surefire SOCOM 762 RC2, did you? It's interesting. Right? You didn't see there. You're like, oh, okay, what's going on? Well, I'd say this. If you were one of the people absolutely dogging the Razor 5.56 and the Helios QD and the 762 RC2, if you were dogging those 3 silencers when they were tested on the Mark 18 and you have a Sandman-S, I got news for you, buddy. Those 3 silencers are more efficient than the Sandman-S on the Mark 18. Look at the review. It's right there. Not only is this data correct, it's time to, let's have a come to Jesus. Not only is this data correct, it's consistent across all of these articles and at the shooter's ear. This pedigree is absolutely bonkers at this point. It's completely undeniable. The data's here, dude. We know how these silencers are behaving, and now we're kind of predicting at this point. We're predicting the behavior at this point, which is wild. Now, let's look at the suppression rating numbers so you can lose your mind if you haven't seen this. Because sometimes I think I'm taking crazy pills. People want to look at it. Okay, scroll down. Figure, but man, there's a lot of data in this review. Okay, past the member stuff. That's only for members. Deal with it. Okay, look at figure 5. It's a bar chart. Okay, and Sandman-S is in red. It's easy to see. Look at it just sit there right next to the Surefire SOCOM 762 RC2. Okay, there's the word comp and the 3-prong. Obviously, focus on the 3-prong. No one uses the word comp that understands how silencers work. Almost identical performance. Okay? Almost identical performance between the Sandman-S and the SOCOM 762 RC2 with the 3-prong. In fact, the composite suppression rating, actually, like if you were to go to the Surefire article and look at the graphic or to the rankings table, the overall composite suppression rating for both these silencers on the Mark 18 is the same, within a tenth. Okay. They only slightly differ in either direction at the muzzle and the shooter's ear. It's neck and neck, basically the same. So, who on this entire planet, pay attention, I'm asking you a question. Who on this entire planet has ever told you that the 7.62 RC2 from Surefire performs like a Sandman-S on the Mark 18? And who on this entire planet has ever recommended a 7.62 RC2 for a 5.56 SBR? And then who has recommended a Sandman-S for a 5.56 SBR? Okay. Answer those two questions. You don't have to say those answers out loud. I can't hear you. Okay? But you can say it to yourself in your head. It's good. Now, I do it all the time. It's fine. Now I want to ask you another question. It's fun. I like asking questions. It's good. Why has seemingly everyone and their mom on the internet and in gun shops recommended the Sandman-S for a short barrel 5.56 platform when the Surefire SOCOM 7.62 RC2 exists too? It's because Dead Air doesn't have a 5.56 silencer and Surefire did. That's the only reason, dude. Look, it's marketing. Which silencer was in stock to order? Guys, supply. Marketing and supply. Look at the chart. Look at the freaking chart, dude. Keep looking at it. Look at it, print it out and put it on your fridge. This is real. Okay? I'm taking the emotion out of this. I'm taking all of the emotion and the supposition out of this, and I'm showing you hard data. Okay? Look at it. Now, keep looking. Look at the Razor 5.56. 22.0 at the muzzle. Same as the Sandman-S. And it's shorter than the Sandman-S. So what does that mean? Well, it's closer to your head. So what do? Well, you lose a point or so at the ear. Okay, whatever. Oh, you think they're both loud? Well, sure, they are on the Mark 18, but this is apples to apples, baby. You understand. Guys, look, you understand now you're seeing where I'm going. The Razor 5.56 is doing what the Sandman-S does in a lighter and shorter and cheaper and simpler package. And remember everyone who not only talked incredibly badly about Rugged for quote unquote misleading them, but also publicly called for their marketing director to be fired? Remember that? I remember. I've seen it. They're spreading hate online. They absolutely lost their mind. Some of these people, and it wasn't a lot of people, but it was a very vocal minority, absolutely losing their minds about the Razor 5.56. Do you remember that? Well, Pepperidge Farm remembers, and the internet remembers. Then what happened? What happened after that? Pew Science released Razor 5.56 data, and people saw it, and they were like, well, it performed better than the Razor 7.62 on 5.56. Then what happened? Well, I kept releasing more data, didn't I? More analysis. And now what? Well, now you have Sandman-S data analysis. And what now? Where are the people who yelled at Rugged? The Razor 5.56, what? It's a Sandman-S, but smaller, lighter, and simpler, and arguably stronger, frankly. So what now? It's crazy, right? Well, let's keep going. Is that the craziest thing? No, let's keep going. There's more. Remember the Helios QD? Remember the absolute insanity when I released that data, and people thought it was terrible. Doesn't seem so terrible now, given its bore size and performance, does it? Yeah, and how well it does on 30 caliber weapons. You put a Helios QD on a 30 caliber on a 308? It's quiet, dude. So yeah, interesting how that works, isn't it? By the way, and it comes in titanium. So there's that. So you see what you see? Okay, let's pick another example. So Jay's biased. No, let's keep going. Q Trash Panda. 30 caliber. Look at the muzzle suppression rating, 27.2 in the table, in the chart. Guys, that's quieter than the Sandman-S by half a category to bystanders, dude. What? You can talk mess about that. You can talk mess about the Trash Panda, but you can't talk mess about the Sandman-S now? You see? Okay, so I'm done. I'm going deep here, and I seem a little aggressive to you because I am, but I'm making a point. And to be clear, for the record, I am not trying to throw shade at dead air here, at all. But I'm trying to make a point. You guys need to stop leaning on this marketing and dealer sales BS and start thinking about reality. Because there is absolutely nothing published on my website or experienced by shooters that shoot the Sandman-S that should have led you to believe the results would have been any different than what you see here on the Mark 18. And if you don't agree with that or understand that, you need to read the review, because I referenced pretty much every single Mark 18 test I've published in that Dane article because I wanted you guys to have the most context possible. Okay? The silencer is not special, okay? It is what it is. You have known what it is, and now you finally understand the behavior. And since you had forgotten when I first showed it to you in June of 2020, it was June of 2020 when Sound Signature Review 611 was written. All right. So now, final thoughts. Is it a good silencer? Well, it can be, certainly. The Sandman-S can certainly be a good silencer. Does it meet your use case? It totally could. Is it a good 5.56 silencer? It could be for you. Does it work on a lot of stuff? Absolutely it does. Absolutely, dude. But now, I think you have a better picture of the Sandman-S, and I hope of the market. Okay, I have shown. Look, I haven't shown you every silencer, but you have enough right now that you can start to draw your own conclusions and start to predict performance of certain designs. You have a lot of data now, a lot of it. Okay, and that, my friends, is one of the goals of Pew Science: education. That's the rising tide. Okay, all right. So that's the Sandman-S and the Mark 18 in context. Topic 2, at a time 51 minutes and 55 seconds. Oh, that was harder for me than it was for you. One second. You know, guys, I wasn't again, I'm not throwing shade. Someone had to say it. And I'm kind of tired of people not talking about reality. It's bothersome. It's been a while since I've had to have a come to Jesus with you, but I hope you aren't upset about that. So this is topic 2, member research supplement 693. Yeah, it's Sandman-S end caps. It's important. You know, it's a 30 caliber silencer. It comes with 30 caliber end cap, and so I did an analysis of shooting with a 30 caliber end cap on the Mark 18. And then with the 5.56 end cap, and I want to know, gosh, does it make a difference? Is the difference meaningful? I thought this was pretty important, and this one was for members. This one was for Pew Science members. Is this clickbait? Absolutely, dude. No, it's not. I mean, kind of is, but yeah, it's super useful, is what it is. I was going to do this, and what, you think I'm going to give it to everyone? Like, no, the members support the effort. They should get something that no one gets. Come on, man. What you think? And what, you think I'm not going to advertise that I wrote something especially for paying members of this effort that are responsible for making all this research possible? Yeah, I'm going to show people I did that. Come on, man. Guys, you know what? Hey, here's something I didn't tell you this last topic. The Sandman-S data and this research supplement, this is all funded completely by Pew Science members. Dead Air doesn't support Pew Science. They don't support Pew Science. But you know what? But they do endorse the R&D as being correct, by the way. I forgot to mention that too in the last topic. Dead Air did that publicly. They endorsed this R&D as being correct. The data is right. The conclusions are correct. The analysis is correct. The Dead Air did that publicly. Okay, so that's good for you to know. Okay, it's important. It's important for you to understand that. In case like you're one of those people who are like super, I don't know, upset all the time about the stuff I do. That's fine. You can be upset at me. It doesn't affect me. But it's affecting you. So one, it's affecting your blood pressure. Two, it's affecting your brain and what you tell people. So if this helps you to know the dead air confirmed, not only the Sandman-S behavior, but its behavior relative to the other silencers, if it helps you to know that, good, because that's reality. And people have screenshots of it, so that's real. The internet never forgets. Okay, so look, you guys also got a research supplement like this for the Razer 762. So this is not the first time I've done this for you. Okay, so for Pew Science members that have been around, it's almost like reading the same article, except a different silencer and slightly different conclusions. But the reason I did this different end cap testing with the Razer 762 and now with the Sandman-S, it's because it's a very common question. And frankly, it's a very common accessory to use with the silencer. I mean, even me, I myself have a 556 end cap for the Razer 762, and it does change the behavior. It does. Okay? And I bought that retail way before I started Pew Science, dude. So you need to. I feel like sometimes people don't understand that I'm also a person that uses silencers. Like I want to know what you want to know. So as was the case with the Razer 762, excuse me. The Sandman-S also changes behavior with the 556 end cap. It does. And you know what? It can be significant. I'm going to pull... Yeah, I can do that from memory. Yeah, it can be significant. It just depends what you're doing, what you need the silencer to do. And I'm not going to give too much away because this is for members, and frankly, it just... I need to figure that out. I've seen some people do this where they have the members only. I talked about this before, like members only videos. There's like a members only podcast or like a member. You know what I should do is a members only live. Give every active member like a login, so you can jump on with me and ask me questions live or something. I feel like that should be like a higher tier though. That's a lot of work. I don't know. I got to think that through. I've seen people do it because I want to be able to talk to you about this. Let me say this, and this is from my heart. This is honest. I think I do want you to subscribe as a member if you need this information. I think that if you think you need this information, I think it's good to have. And I am telling, and look, I'm being honest with you. You will not find this information anywhere else in the world. Dead Air does not have this information. Okay? They do not know how to provide you with this information. And they do not have access to this. So therefore, you will not get this information from the manufacturer of the silencer. Pew Science is the sole provider of this information to the public. I am being as straight with you right now as straight can be. Okay? So I'm not trying to sell you anything, but I'm telling you, if you care about this and you really want to know, don't steal it or get it from a buddy that's a Pew Science. Just support the effort. Guys, like, I'm trying to help you. And like, if you try to circumvent it, it's really, I mean, it's fine if you want to steal. I mean, I understand, like, some people are dishonest, but realize that the only reason why I was able to do this Sandman-S test and twice with different end caps and do member research supplement is because people support the effort. So if you circumvent it and steal, well, then you're in direct opposition to it even being able to exist. So that like dichotomy and that hypocrisy you should at least know about it. And that's kind of what I want you to know, right? I'm not trying to be your dad here. I'm just telling you, like, you know, be a good person. That's kind of the part of the Pew Science thing, right? So anyway, I hope it helps the Pew Science members out here. I hope it shows you that there can be differences when you change only one variable in a silencer's configuration. It's only one variable. It's wild, right? Like, all you're doing is changing the distal orifice. All you're changing is the distal orifice. And sometimes the differences are big and sometimes they're small. And sometimes they manifest in ways you wouldn't think could happen. But that, my friends, is why we do the research. It's why we do research. If we already knew everything, we wouldn't it wouldn't be called research. I mean, we got to figure it out. And I tell you what, if I knew, let me tell you, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I feel like I know members get the info, but let me tell you something. This is just me speaking about my experience with like the Razor 762. I bought that silencer. I remember buying it, and one of the first things I did with that thing was I put it on a semi-auto 308 hunting rifle I was using, because I was like, man, this semi-auto is so loud. I'm shooting pigs. Just like give me something that's like not too heavy crazy and not too long, that I know that's never going to break. I'm going to like really abuse my hunting gear because I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff all over creation. Let me get a Razor 762 and do it. So I did. And this is before I started Pew Science, and I had been out of the game for a while, so like I didn't know what the quietest stuff was. And of course, like I went on the internet trying to find like the quietest stuff, and like of course no one knew, because everyone lies or is misinformed because they're lied to. And so I'm like, okay, and like no one knew anything, and I bought these, and I was like, is it louder than I thought it would be? Yeah, absolutely. So I was like, okay. So I used it, whatever. And then I started putting on 5.56 guns, and I was like, damn, that thing's loud, dude. I was like, what is going on? I was like, man. And then I went on Rugged's website, and I saw they had a 5.56 end cap. And I thought about it for a second. I was like, oh. And this is before I started Pew Science. I thought about it, and I was like, okay. I was like, man, if I put that 5.56 end cap on this silencer, it's probably going to make it quieter, but it's probably going to decrease the flow rate. It's going to ramp up back pressure. I was like, I wonder how much that matters for my gun. I started thinking about it. And at this point, I hadn't built PewSoft and wrote everything. And I was thinking about it. And so I bought the 5.56 end cap from Rugged, and I put it on the Razor, and I shot it without hearing protection on like, I don't know what I was shooting at the time, something stupid. And it was quieter at first. And I was like, huh. And so I messed with that a couple times, and so I knew, like, going into this, and this goes back to, what was it? What was the research supplement I did for the Razor? Was that 59? 1 second. I think I referenced it in the Sandman. Hold on. I just, for completeness, 1 second. Oh, Jay. 1 second. Oh, yeah, I should probably click on 93 so I can actually see what the hell I'm talking about here. Yeah, it was 59. I knew when I did that I was going to see a difference in the suppression rating, and the reason I knew is because I had firsthand experience with it. But it was cool for me personally to see in Member Research Supplement 659 with the Rugged Razor tested on the various end caps, tested with the various end caps. It was cool for me to see it, because I was like, oh my God, that is like, that kind of mirrors my experience. That's really cool. And now we have quantified numbers for it. So my impetus with this next one, with the Sandman-S, was, okay, there have got to be people just like me out there, wondering if they should buy the 5.56 end cap and what it actually does, and or is the manufacturer just blowing smoke and trying to get more money because it's an accessory, and so I figured, like, yeah, if I myself, before I started Pew Science, thought it was possibly useful to put that on the Razor, I knew that people would think that the same thing would hold true for or at least they would be inquisitive enough to wonder the same thing for the Sandman-S. I think I'm right. And I don't shoot a Sandman-S, but I know a lot of you do. So I hope it helps. Okay? And if you're a member, thank you. And if you're not, well, Also, thank you for listening, and maybe you'll join and read it, and maybe you won't. But if you need it, it's there. Okay. Topic 3 at a time of 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 47 seconds. Okay. I need some dinner, guys. I'm running out of gas. I was like, how long will the stimulant last and carry me through the fact that my body needs energy? It's like, Jay, your brain does have stimulant, but we are running dangerously low on calories, and we need to burn that for fuel. It's like, I know. Topic 3. Foreign silencers. I just want to touch on this really quick. This Ukrainian thing, this Russian-Ukrainian war, I was looking at the analytics on the website there. I do monitor it, and I was noticing some weird trends, particularly in the search acquisition, like how people are finding the website, where they are located in the world, and then who's actually going to it. And I was noticing some heavy Russian traffic. Uncharacteristically so. There's always some Russian traffic, but this is like more and more. And it's not like, and I know it's real from Russia, just because I do, and not like some other VPN crap or whatever, just because of the way the traffic is shaped. And so, I thought that was interesting, and I did share that on social media with some folks, and it's steadily rising, during this current war. I thought it was more than a coincidence. And so on Monday, which was really interesting, a Ukrainian silencer company reached out to me and wanted to send me some silencers. I actually posted the conversation publicly because I thought it was so wild. I asked the guy first. I was like, after we got done talking, I was like, hey man, like I want to share this with people from the United States. Is that okay? And because English is not his first language, I iterated. I said it different ways. I was like, is it okay? Or would you rather not me do it? Because I wanted to give him a choice. I didn't want him to like think that I was like, I know sometimes non-native English speakers will not get the gist. So I was very explicit, and he was like, dude, I totally want you to share. I was like, okay. So, but you got to keep in mind what he sent me in his message. He wanted to send me silencers without ATF involvement, without customs involvement. And I was like, bro, first of all, you might be ATF. No, I politely declined. But I did tell him I would get him in touch with an importer, and we'll see what comes of it. I actually, that's right, I did today. I went ahead and I gave him the name and number of an importer, and I think these guys might try to import some of their silencers, which would be cool. The more the merrier, I say. I mean, it'd be cool to have him come to the United States. I give him the number of the guy. He actually he told me, this guy told me, he was like, we have 3,000 units like sent to, I don't know, whoever's fighting for the Ukraine or whatever. And believe me, don't take this topic as me like picking a side between Russia and Ukraine. Like I live in America. Okay. So I'm just observing this. This guy was like, yeah, we fielded 3,000 units. And so, and I'm going to paraphrase his statement that he clearly translated to English. I'm going to paraphrase it by saying his stance is that his silencers are being combat proven right now because they're being used in combat against Russia. So he wants to be the best and show that he's the best because they're like actually being used. And for him to say that, it's probably because, like, I don't know if you've seen silencer technology in like Eastern Europe, but not exactly always awesome. The United States is actually way more advanced, just FYI. And so, and I'm not saying that just because I'm an American and we're the best country on earth, because we are, but I'm saying that because we are more advanced, because our military requirements drive more innovation. And so, just that's how it is. We wake up in the morning and piss excellence. I mean, we're the United States. So he sent me these videos of the silencers being used, which I thought was cool. And I asked him if I could share them. He said, dude, I want you to. I was like, cool. So I shared a ton of them on the Instagram story. I think they're gone now. I might make them permanent reels or something for you guys to see. And they showed some baffles on their Instagram account, which was interesting. I found that really interesting. And so all that being said about this really kind of niche, like Russian Ukrainian thing, I wanted to thank the Pew Science members who have been spreading the word, because it's not like Russia and the Ukraine is looking at Pew Science because I just woke up one day and put something on the internet. No, there is that part, but you guys have spread the word enough to where it's people. They're sending me screenshots where they're in their Google News feed on their phone, and the Pew Science Sandman-S article was in the Google News feed on their phone. Okay, so thanks for spreading the word. I'm getting a significant amount of feedback that gun shops all over the nation are referencing the data now, and their customers are coming into the shops armed with silencer knowledge, and they're referencing Pew Science. And so some of the dealers don't like it because they. One of my industry friends told me, how did he put it? He told me that I have upset the apple cart. I didn't mean to do that necessarily, but I thought it probably would happen, and that's what's happened. And some folks don't like that, and I'm got to break some eggs to make an omelet, I guess. Guys, the effort's working. It really is, and we're changing the game, all of us together. Make sure this season here. Make sure to keep your feeders full and check those hog and coyote traps. Tell you what, you're gonna don't leave them. I was checking some snares this past weekend, and I had some coyotes that died on an unfortunate death. They were in the snares, and I hadn't checked them, and they got eaten by their friends. And buzzards. Enjoy the hunting season. Keep sending me videos and photos of your suppressed kills. People have been showing me videos and photos of their first silencers when they get them. It's super cool. They're showing me their hunting photos. They're using, their hunting suppressed for the first or the 900th time or whatever it is, and they're loving it. I'd just love to see you guys having fun and really getting something out of the suppressed small arms. That's what really brings me joy. I just want to see people enjoying themselves. I think it's cool. Okay, so stay safe out there, man. And you guys see that guy who pulled a grizzly bear off of his friend, and he got mauled, but they both survived? Dude, get you some friends like that. All right. I'll talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.